Hello, in this video tutorial I'm going to cover how to edit the photos in the orders we receive from customers. Specifically, this pertains to digital images that customers purchase. So the process is somewhat different than fulfilling the orders for print packages. In this case, I have in front of me, for example, an order for 3 digital downloads. That's the term we use. And they happen to be for the Children's Place Preschool. I'm in that school now. It's under Preschool Kids is the folder. And I'll just type in the first image, 2176. And we'll pull it up. We'll take a look. So basically, when it comes to digital downloads, first thing you want to do is be sure you're looking at the files as a 4:6 aspect ratio. That's the actual cropping that the cameras we use provide. So if you're looking at 4:6, you're going to see the whole image. If you're looking at anything else like 5:7 or 8:10, you can see it's clipping off part of the picture. So you just want to look at the auto or 4:6. Usually I won't crop it from that aspect ratio unless it looks like the photo was way down in the frame. But like in this case, I would leave it like this, because if the customer wants to print this or whatever they want to do, they could always crop it themselves with whatever software they're using. So we try to keep the editing to a minimum. The first thing we always do, you go to the Enhance tab here, and then over here on the Focus tool, you press the triangle, which applies a focus that's kind of the equivalent of the unsharp mask in Photoshop. Probably not nearly as sophisticated, but it does a decent job. Then we go to the Correct tab. In the Correct tab, the first thing I've been doing lately, and this is since we've been using the Godox lights, I'll try to click on the A for auto focus or auto contrast here under contrast. So if I click on that, you can see it kind of brightened it up. You never know what it's going to do. It's really kind of strange. I mean, sometimes it has no effect on the picture. Other times it makes it quite a bit brighter. Other times it just looks bad if you do it, but I always try that. So again, in this case, it kind of brightens it and gives it a little more definition, I would say. So I'm going to do that, the autofocus, and then I usually use this brighten tool like a couple times. I just clicked it twice, and sometimes also the shadow tool. The shadow theoretically is sort of like more around the photo, not at the middle. So it applies a little bit of additional light. But to me, that looks pretty good. You can always, again, the customer could always brighten it further. What you don't want to do is brighten it too much, because if it's brightened too much, it's a lot harder to make it darker later. Okay? So once you've done what you want to do, and let's say that's it, you're going to do that. Click right here as Save as a New Photo. So that just saved it. You can see it's editable, but it's a EDF file. It's a darkroom file. And then the next thing I do is I go back to the Enhance tab, and then using the brush here for retouching, I click on that to open Photoshop, and it'll create this edited photo. It'll save it already as a JPEG photo. And if you don't need to do anything else, like in this case, I'd say we don't, you can just save this, use this button here, Save Retouched Photo. Now, when it comes to photos where there's things you have to do in darkroom, like let's say there was a scratch on her face and we wanted to get that out. Let's say there was, it was more of a plain looking top and there was a stain, we'd want to try to get that out, that sort of thing. I'm going to pause for now until I find an image that has more of what I'm talking about. So here's a good example of an image that was shot with a lot of room at the top. It just so happens I was the photographer here, so I didn't remember to, after focusing on the subject, I didn't remember to adjust my camera slightly. Shame on me. Anyway, so in this case, I would probably just bring it up a little bit. So I think, you know, maybe I'm just raising it up, and I'll then make it a little larger. And then since I did that, I can move it a little bit so his nose is like right there at the center line. That's why I leave these on when I'm doing this, so you can see the center of the photo from end to end, or side to side. So that looks better, I think. It still leaves room to crop further if they wanted to, you know, print it smaller. But I'm still going to do my focus, and I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do my contrast, and then brighten it a little bit, and save as new. Back to the enhance, and then retouch. And one thing I'll say is the bookcase looks great. So I didn't adjust it, even though at the very top it looks a little bit off, but that's always seems to be the case. So save, retouched, and there's an example of that. So here's another example where the photo is shot nicely, meaning it's nicely framed. However, there is more than enough space at the top. I'll show you what I mean. So if you crop this as a 5x7, or even as an 8x10. So as an 8x10 like this, you'd still, if I were printing this picture, I would raise it up to about here, leaving about that much space. Reason for doing that on an 8x10 is because often an 8x10 gets framed, and the frame covers up part of the photo. But just to give you an idea, so I did raise it up. Let's go back to the auto aspect. So you can see what happens here is if I were to leave it like this, that's how it's going to save. And you don't want that to happen for a digital image, because you know there's no point in sending a file that has this strip of nothing down at the bottom. So instead, what I might do is I'm going to go back to how it was originally framed. I just did that with the up and down arrow, but another way to do it is to actually click on the thumbnail again. So 9536. If I click on the thumbnail, it takes me right back to where it was. This is before I've saved it at all. So I might again just kind of nudge it up a little bit, and then to get rid of that, I'm going to, you know, use the scroll tool to enlarge it a little bit. So I would say that's a good cropping. I'm still going to do my focus. I'm going to go over here, try out so here's a good example. I'll turn that off again. So to me that looks fine actually, but if you do press the auto contrast, you know, it really kind of makes it pop. So I think, you know, that's better. Not meaning this, but that this is better. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to say save as new photo, back to the enhance and retouch, and there's that example. So that's probably enough for this video, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.